Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the second session of leading and accelerating into leadership. Today we're going to be joined by Marwan Elfallah. He will be taking us through the second session titled You as a Leader. Marwan, in fact, has a very keen interest in education, and he has a master's in information technology. He has tremendous amount of experience in teaching. He's been teaching in high school, including from high school right up to A levels for the past 16 years. He's recently also just been promoted to a senior lecturer in initial teacher training for the University of East London. So he's made that transition from teaching students, now training teachers. So Marwan, in fact, has had a very profound impact on my teaching career. When I first started teaching, Marwan was my mentor in my first school placement, and he also successfully managed me in my first teaching placement as well when I did my newly qualified teaching year. So he's been somebody who I go to for a lot of advice, a lot of guidance, and he supported me throughout my career as well. And not just that, but he's also a good friend of mine as well. In addition to what we're going to be speaking about today, Marwan is going to go through the insight towards becoming a leader. What kind of impact do you need to have, and talking about a range of things in regards to the type of leader you are to be. And this is an extension to what Brother Suleiman covered on Monday. I must also warn you that Marwan has a strong Glaswegian accent. So Marwan, I'm going to make a request here because we've had you deliver some sessions for Neither Trust before. If you could kind of slow down a little bit. I think if I could share one of the best stories that I've ever had, which makes me chuckle up until today. I remember a Somali student once said to us in our school when Marwan had to lead the Jummah prayers on a Friday. He actually said, "Sir, that's the first time I heard Surah Fatiha being recited in the Scottish accent," which was really funny for me at the time. But anyways, that's enough of me speaking now. Marwan, I'm going to pass the floor on to you. You as a leader, please take it away.
Right, thank you very much, Shoaib, for that introduction. I'm really honoured to be giving this lecture for Neither Trust, such an excellent organisation, and the amount of work that you do in shaping leaders of the future is exceptional. So I hope that this will enlighten some of you and we can share some knowledge. Right, so the question is, you as a leader. Right, so the learning aims. So we first look at the leader, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I think we all agree the best of leaders of mankind. Then we're going to go into your leadership style. So what kind of leadership style would you want to have? And then it's about always learning, especially from other school leaders. And then it's about aiming for that bit of respect rather than being liked, which is an important part and one of the most difficult things of being a leader. Right, so Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, now here's a quote from Michael Hart, who had to choose a leader who was the most influential one. And he goes, "My choice of Muhammad, peace be upon him, to lead the list of the world's most influential persons may surprise some readers and may be questioned by others, but he was the only man in history who was supremely successful on both the secular and religious level." So a lot of people, they think Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they forget the sort of worldly thing, but he was a leader in both aspects. These are the characteristics that one of the scholars, I think it was Yasir Qadi, said about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he had a unique vision, sincerity. He had personal struggles. When you look at his history, okay, anybody that sees someone with the history that he had, they would think, "Oh, miskeen, oh, they feel sorry for him." But he had those personal struggles, and look what he became. Confidence, eloquent speaker, concise, precise, courageous. you look through all the attacks that he had gone under, persuasive in propagating truth, followed with loyalty. He was loved. He was humble, wasn't materialistic, strategic, made the best out of a situation, balanced, strict compassion, justice, mercy, self-managed. Okay, he cared for others. His goal was clear. He was successful in what he did. He led by examples. Okay, didn't lead from behind. Okay, managed diverse groups. The tribes, they weren't all the same. Preaches equality and unites groups. Fosters creativity. Optimistic. Always had a positive attitude, no matter how bad the situation was. Emotional stability, which is extremely important because sometimes we're overtaken by our emotions. Ethical behavior and scandal free. Created ethical followers. Recovered from tragedy. Okay, when you look at the deaths within his family. Swiftness of success. Managed to change history within 10 years. Massive impact with limited resources. And successful personal life. You look at his marital life. Okay. Admiration and respect from all immediate family, created strong successors, and the legacy after death, which remains with us 1,400 years after. So these are all the qualities of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, obviously, that's what we aim for, but can we get there? Obviously, we're not going to, but we have to look at these qualities, and these should be targets for us. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so just letting you know, that's the quote. That's who looked into and analysed his qualities. Okay, John Adair, he's an expert and wrote a number of books into leadership, and he's come up with these ideas. So we've got three different aspects to it. We've got the task needs, the individual needs, and your group needs. Okay, so task needs, what is it you're actually planning to do? So you have to break down the task quite clearly, setting objectives, planning tasks, allocating responsibilities, setting performance standards. Then we've got the individual needs. So you have to look at your team. Your team, that you might choose your team, but you might also inherit a team. So if you inherit a team, you didn't choose them, so their needs they might not be as strong as what you'd like them to be. So you have to make a decision, right? Are you going to go down the coaching route, counselling, developing, motivating? And these are things, especially in teaching, you're going to have to do, because no matter what position you are, whether it's a middle leader, whether it's a senior leader, head teacher, you are going to have to use these qualities when you're dealing with your team. Then you've got your group needs, communication, team building. Team building is often very difficult when you've got diverse teams that might not necessarily get along with one another. And so how do you build that team? Motivation, discipline. So how can we instill that? And he actually wrote the book on Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the leadership of Muhammad, and he analysed it. So that's a book that some of you might be interested in reading. Key points from his book. Leadership is done from the front. So as we mentioned earlier, he was in the trenches. He didn't just send people out there without leading from the front. Example is everything. Okay, there's a lot of talk about some of the leaders that we have just now. So there's a leader, I think everyone knows him, in America just now. He's stood in front of the world with a Bible, and then people are sort of questioning, is that appropriate? Because he's not exactly leading by example. No one is born wise. A leader becomes wise, acquires practical wisdom through natural aptitude to practice and reflection. So as leaders, we will make mistakes, and no one is born wise. So this is something that it's a journey, leadership. So yes, you might think, oh, I've become middle leader or I've become senior leader, but it's always a learning journey, and it's something that I think we always need to practice, we always need to reflect on. And no tribe ever knowingly chooses a man who's known morally bad to be its leader. Now, so if you think about that, people want someone that they trust to be a leader. There can be no confidence without truth. Okay. Right. Just checking. Has anybody got any comments or anybody want to say anything about their experiences regarding leadership from what's been said there? Anyone want to type anything in the group?
I think you've covered some very important aspects there about the leadership of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam there, Marwan. I think obviously he was quite successful on all fronts, and it's an opportunity for us to view that. I actually watched that video that you shared with me that was made by Yasser Qadi. That was really good.
Yeah.
And it goes into a lot of details. So yeah, let's see if anyone has added anything into the box.
Anybody want to make any comments?
Yeah.
No?
Okay. Let's proceed, Marwan.
All right, that's fine. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's look at it. So we've got leadership, culture, climate, how it feels, and then we've got that discretionary effort. So that's adding that little bit extra as a leader, and that sets an excellent example. Right. Let's think about. I'd quite like everybody to look at this one just now. Okay, sorry, we've got a question there about creating the culture. Yeah, let me just move back. Sorry. So thank you. Right, so if we looked at some of the characteristics of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in creating the culture, so let me put it out to the group. Can you give examples of where he created a culture of leadership? I'd quite like the group to type some things in there, please. What did he do that stands out when you think about it as a leader? If anyone could give examples from his life, that would be excellent. Yep, gain trust of the people, led by example. Treatment of women, that's an excellent one. Yep, brought different people together. The manners, I think that's something that a lot of us we do forget. Strategic decisions, yeah, wasn't led by emotion. Yeah, all of these. Yep, challenge social classes, morality and vision within them, care for his followers. Yeah, so these are all things that are all related to the culture. Yeah, so despite his enemies plotting, now we hope in a school that you're not going to have other departments plotting against you, but there are challenges that you need to think of. Stand firm on vision, complete trust in Allah. Okay, so these are a number of things that created that culture of leadership, and yeah, considering sensitive to other people's views. Right. So what I want to do now is I've got a diagram here. So this is let's call it the leadership tree. So does anyone want to say where they are just now, or want to explain where certain things are in the tree? Who do you think this person might be? So I'm going to open it to the group. If anyone wants, we'll unmic them. Sorry, we'll open the mic, unmute them, not unmic them, and I'd quite like someone to actually speak about where they are, or choose someone in there that they might want to comment on where they think that person is. So if we can get some hands up.
Okay, so let's just see who would like to contribute towards this. So Marwan has said that there's a diagram on the slide that shows the leadership tree. He's asked you to identify where you are on the tree, and then if you'd like to share that with the group, please type in "speak" into the comment box, and I will unmute you. So you might be right at the top, you might be somewhere near the bottom, you might be somewhere climbing up. So is there anyone who would like to share where they think they are on the leadership tree?
And if they don't want to talk about themselves, they want to talk about someone else, that's fine as well, as long as they don't mention their name.
That's fine. Okay, so we just give another few more seconds for someone to come in.
Okay, yeah, we've got some interesting comments there. Does anyone want to speak?
Okay. Okay, so we've got Tafel Bashir who would like to speak. I'm just going to unmute Brother Tafel. Just give me 1 second, Tafel. Right, Tafel, you're now unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm right at the bottom. You see in the bottom right, looking up now because I've just finished my NQT here.
Okay, so Brother Tafel has identified himself at the bottom right, looking up. Okay, go ahead, Marwan.
Okay, I think that's an important thing, as in it's identifying where you are. Tafel, are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, where do you think this person is?
He's right at the bottom.
And what's happening to him?
He's looking up at the management, the leadership and whatnot.
Oh, sorry. Can you see my mouse where it is?
No.
All right. Sorry. The one hanging down from the tree, the last branch on the right hand side.
The one that's hanging down?
Yeah.
He looks like he's trying to get up by slipping.
Okay, he's slipping. Yeah. So you've got different cases. So the one that you mentioned, where you want to climb up, and there's two different ones. There's one who's just standing and looking, and there's one that's actually started. Where would you put yourself, if you don't mind me asking?
Right now, because of the coronavirus situation, the one that's standing and looking.
Okay.
You know what? I'd actually disagree with you on that. Even though I can't speak for yourself, the fact that you've actually enrolled in this and you're actually thinking about it, so I would actually say you've started the journey in climbing up. That's what I would say.
Marwan, we've got Sister Nina now who would like to speak, so we're going to give her an opportunity. Sister Nina, yeah. I've now unmuted you.
I've looked at it from the
Sorry, Sister Nina, we can't hear you. I think you've are you still there?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can. Yep.
So what I've done is I've looked at the picture and looked at different parts of how a leader feels. So like the one at the top is alone. And sometimes as a leader, you feel alone within your capacity, or sometimes you're doing a lot of emotional, social interactions and trying to motivate your team. So there's those two people kind of hugging. So you're looking at the emotional part. And then that one swinging is like when you're sometimes in having to go from one task to the other, and you don't know where you are quite, because you're moving quite fast, climbing, kind of like the struggle of trying to get things done, trying to achieve your vision and the culture that you're trying to create, and sometimes slipping because you can't quite climb securely up the tree. So I kind of looked at it as in different situations that you're in within your leadership capacity, and feel that you kind of go through the different pictures.
I think you've made a number of excellent points there. The loneliness point is an excellent point, because when you think of the structure within a school, the higher you go up, sort of the less friends you are likely to have. Because if you think of a head teacher, there is no one in the school at their level, and people might be a little bit intimidated by them. People might try and use them in certain ways, so you can actually be quite lonely. And if you really want to implement something but people don't share your vision, it can actually be quite lonely. And it varies at different parts of the tree.
Yeah.
Can I actually say that's one thing I'm really interested in it is trying to ensure, how do you get people on board your vision? How do you create that culture that you want to create when, say, previously the status quo was different and you've come in as a leader and you want to change the culture that has been embedded for a number of years, and it's really hard. And you know, I've tried lots of different things. I've tried the team building. I've tried leading as example. I've tried getting stuck in there. I've tried sharing and reinventing the vision with my school. And just wanted to know if there was anything else that you feel as a leader that I could do. I'm actually a head teacher. It's my first year of headship.
Yeah.
And I've come over from the state sector into the Islamic sector. And I'm in a beautiful little school where it's just got a lot of potential.
Yep.
And so that's kind of something I'm really interested in, is that culture.
Sure. I think, Sister Nina, I know you asked the same question on Monday.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. What I'd rather do is, I don't want to detract from what's been delivered. I think you've made some very vital points there. Perhaps what might be a good idea is, let's proceed with this, and perhaps myself, you and Marwan can speak at the end of this call.
Okay.
Yeah?
Jazakallah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Marwan, I'm just conscious that we got to move on. There are a few people who have contributed towards this discussion, and some have said, for example, young Lona has said, with strong root we can climb safe to the top. Sister Zainab has said, I think I'm down there because I need to learn a new skill and how to lead people in a proper way. Sister Sarah has said, I'm near the bottom of the tree because I'm a TA. Inshallah, you can train as a teacher and climb yourself up. And yeah, Sister Amal has said, I'm climbing up the bark with someone who's supporting me to climb up. So a lot of interesting insights into this diagram. So obviously the journey up the tree can be quite lonely, but at the same time, it depends where you go and where you embark on as well. So go ahead, Brother Marwan.
Thank you very much. And thank you for everyone for contributing, whether you typed or whether you actually spoke. There were some excellent contributions there. So, right, where are you now? Why? Where would you like to be? And what's interesting is, those of you, everybody might say, oh, I want to be at the top, but also we've mentioned at the top there are some challenges there as well. And what might you do about it? So, sorry, just moving on the slide. Okay. Right, so if we look at the last section from Brother Suleiman, so these are the things we sort of reflect on. Creative comes up with some amazing ideas, getting things done, shares personal details. Okay, so when you think of a leader as sharing personal details, it's not necessarily what he had for breakfast this morning. It's more to do with, how did he reach the point of where he did, or has he got an example, or he or she, where they've done something successful and it's worked well. Ensuring everything that's running smoothly. Yes, you as a leader, you will delegate, you will pass things on, but you've also got to make sure that you have an eye on things. Cares about the people. The welfare, as in, it's actually become an issue in the media recently. Mental health, people's welfare, because a lot of the time it was pretty much oh yeah, let's just get them to work. Okay, and now we've sort of changed, I would say, in the United Kingdom as a country, the way that we actually think about things, whether it's all just show, whether it's actually genuine care, that's a good question that I think we could have another day. Allows others to lead. I think that's an important one, because I've come across leaders that are afraid to pass on responsibility to others, and I believe that Kareem, Brother Kareem's going to have a session on that later about delegating. But knowing when to give someone else responsibility, helping other people get responsibility, I think that's an extremely important part of leadership. Adapts and evolves targets. If you've got the same target every year, then I think there's a problem. The world changes, the school changes, environment changes. Clarity. Make sure people clearly understand the targets. Are you actually, sorry for using this phrase, but singing from the same hymn sheet? Do people know what you're actually meaning? Do they know what your actual vision is? And back to that, I said about, we already get monitoring ongoing successes and failures. So there's some things to think about. And then we've also got on the right-hand side, a number of things.
Yeah. So Marwan, Brother Suleiman went through this. He spoke about it in quite significant detail. In terms of reflecting on from the last session, what exercise or what message does this slide initially give out?
Sorry, the sound just went there. I think the message is, I think reflection is vital, and I think these are characteristics that we really need to think about when we are leaders. If we actually thought about this and we looked at ourselves and said, right, which of these have I actually done? And some of these we have to think about. I actually think it's a bit of balance here. So for example, if we look at make sure people are happy, if you're a leader and everybody's happy, but they're not, which people are happy? Let's think about it. We've got the teachers might all be happy, but are your students happy? We might have students happy, but are the teachers happy? Are you happy? So it's about a balancing act as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think this one, showing gratitude, we can never actually forget about that. Sometimes you will find members of staff that leave and simply, they weren't grateful for what I did. And that's something that I think we need to think about as well. Challenging and provoking the team. Stand up to those who aren't pulling weight. Not always easy for a leader to do, but essential if you want to become successful. Right, there's a proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want, anyone want to think about that? Any questions there? Anyone want to sort of analyze what that means? Anyone in the chat?
Yeah, I think it's a very vital quote that we've been introduced to, particularly from on the back of what Brother Suleiman has said. In terms of all those aspects that you've just spoken about. So Dr. Anjum has spoken about teamwork. Yep, teamwork. Would you like to elaborate on that, Dr. Anjum or Sister Tahira? If you'd like to speak, just mention speak and I'll unmute you. Okay, yep. Fine. Collective growth mind.
Yeah, I think that one, you can't lead alone, is vital.
Yep. Okay.
Sometimes people hold you back. If you go alone, you go faster. But if you want better results, you need to work with others.
That's right. Okay, let's proceed.
It takes practice, and it is a daily practice.
I didn't introduce this video, but here it is. Oh.
It takes practice, and it is a daily practice. You're not going to be an expert tomorrow. Leadership is the practice of putting the lives of others sometimes ahead of our interests. So practicing leadership is like driving to work in the morning and someone wants to cut in your lane. Do you pull forward or do you pull back? That's leadership. Like, we don't know. Maybe they're running late for a big interview and they've been unemployed for 6 months. Maybe their boss is an ogre and they left late because their kids, had trouble getting out to school today. Like, I don't know why they're late. You know, I don't know why they're cutting in, or maybe they're just a bastard. I don't know. But we can sacrifice being at work one car length late. You know, that's leadership. You're standing in the elevator. You're running late for a meeting. The doors start to close. You see someone rushing towards the elevator. What do? Sorry. Like, we've all done that, you know? No, lean forward and push hold. That's leadership. You pour yourself a cup of coffee. It's the last cup. You put it back. It's empty. The next person wants a cup. They'll make a next pot. Or when no one's looking, you make the next pot of coffee. This is leadership. And if you practice the little stuff, when you ask someone, how are you doing? You actually care about the answer, right? If you don't care, don't ask. So these are little things that if you practice and practice and practice, like exercise, the pain starts to go away. You start to get a little stronger. It starts to get a little easier. You start to take those kinds of risks with bigger and bigger things. And people start to recognize that you've changed, or that the environment is changing, that it's different working here. It's a daily practice. Don't be intimidated by the fact that it's an awesome responsibility. Just do little things to make the lives of the people around you better. And if you practice a lot, you get good at it.
Okay. Right. If anyone was offended by the use of an inappropriate word there, I do apologise. I'm pretty sure, unfortunately, you would have heard worse in schools, but I do apologise for that. But hopefully the rest of the video was sort of made up for it. Right, so what kind of leader are you? Right. Before I actually play the rest of it, can people just put in comments what sort of leader would you say that you are? If you'd like to share that on the chat, please. Anyone brave enough to say what kind of leader they are?
Yeah. So while we wait for our participants to comment, I just want to quickly go through some of the comments that have been mentioned beforehand. So we've got Sister Young, who said, you need to work together to go up to the top of the tree. Sister Zara said, having worked in Africa, teamwork is essential as the work ethic is different. Sister Thamina said, it's your team that help you to demonstrate yourself as a leader. If you're a good leader, you recognize you need your team. So I think also, many of our colleagues here have mentioned that, teamwork is quite critical for them to achieve their common objective. So we've now got Sister Zara commenting about her being a driven and empathetic leader. Sister Sarah saying she's a good listener. Sister Hasina saying, I like to support others to bring out the best in others. Sister Tahira said she's organized, systematic, diligent. Very good. I like that word, diligent. Sister Zainab has said active, organized, and caring. Sister Nina has said distributed leadership ethos. Okay, interesting. Just and unbiased by Dr. Mina. And Sister Tasneem has said, I like to think I lead by example. I don't ask for something unless I do it myself. Quite critical, that is. Sister Faiza said, work together, communication, listening, and organized. Brother Wazir has said he's a servant leader. I think he's talking about servitude in terms of leadership there, I believe. Sister Elena said, I identify with the whole theory of servant leadership. Okay, very similar to what Brother Wazir has said. So quite an interesting mix, and yeah. I'd also say a very wholesome approach to the leadership styles that we've just been shown. Thoughts, right. Marwan?
Yeah, everybody's clearly thought about what kind of leader they are, what leader they want to be. So it's quite interesting, the different ideas there, and also the ones about servitude, being there to serve, which is, I think, part of the way that I think is really important, because we are there to serve as leaders. We should not be doing it just for, like, some people, they go into leadership for themselves, but when we think about that, is that what we really want to be?
Yeah.
Right, so let me go through it. Sorry. Right, so what kind of leader are you? Okay, right, so all of these are different types, and sometimes you will need to use some of these skills in different places, depending on the actual situation. So for example, a commanding leader, if you're walking into somewhere that's really successful and you are commanding, yes. Do you need to be democratic? You probably do, because you've probably got people in there that you need to use their say to help you out. That might be slightly different in another situation. Pace setting, visionary, coaching, affiliative. Right. So there's no one best style. Effective leadership is using the appropriate styles to deal with specific situations. I think that's something that I think the best leaders, I think, know when to do certain things at different times. They will judge the situation. They'll think, you know what, I need to be coaching here, or I need to be commanding, or I need to see what the team think. And I think it's knowing when to use different styles at different points. Right. So let's look at that. Commanding, crisis, trouble, clear boundaries, expectations, direct language, inject change. People need direction. If used well, we'll get results. Asking for inflexibility. Where would you think, let's think of the school context, what kind of school would need that? So if I can get some comments.
So just for everyone's purpose, clear instruction here. Marwan is asking, where would you use a commanding leadership style in order to get results? So we've got all the criteria in there.
Right, I've got an interesting comment there. Academy. Would you the person that's Sister Hasina, you've said academy. Why would you think an academy? Is that an academy needs that, or would you say that's the way that you see academies as doing? If you don't mind replying, you can reply on the chat, or if you can take the mic, it's either one. And
some others are coming in.
All right, you see academies as very draconian. Okay, so that's some academies do give that impression. Other people might disagree with that. The way they have a set of rules. Thank you. Yeah. Other people have said, Tufel has said, an RI Ofsted school, so requires improvement. And someone else, Sister Sarah has said, a struggling school. I can see where that you would need commanding leadership in those cases. In the RI Ofsted school, pretty much requires improvement. You don't. There isn't necessarily a lot of room to move. Also, someone's wrote down, I think, with a tight deadline. You've got a tight deadline. You've got to fix things. Thank you. That was Ihsan. So that is something that's extremely important. But that commanding style won't necessarily work everywhere. Can someone tell me where it might not work? Where might that lead to the opposite effect? So where might a commanding style fail? SEN, where SEN schools will not get their heart, where students and staff need more pastoral support. Yeah. Okay, interesting. High staff turnover. An actual classroom need to adapt the student. So Brother Tufel there's actually thinking about the students in the class, as in if you just come in and you use that, it might not actually work. Setting new leadership during a crisis. I would have thought it's interesting. In a crisis, sometimes we do need the commanding one, but you would need to make sure that we've got the trust in the person that's carrying out the commanding. Right, I'm going to move on to the next one. So there's still a lot of good comments coming on. So if people can read the comments as well, I'm not ignoring them. I'm just moving on to the next one. Right, the democratic leadership listens. If you can see it there, values people's opinions, creates a sense of belonging, cohesion. Consensus and consultation needed. Enforces people's roles and responsibility. Ideal for high-performing teams, experienced teams. And I think that's the thing that's important at the bottom. You do want people getting involved in the decision-making process. And if you're walking into a team of experts, and if you just come in and command them all and tell them what to do, when some of those experts might actually be able to contribute to your team, that's extremely important. It reminds us, I think, of when Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was in a battle once, and when you think about it, he's there at the top. People have got the utmost respect for him, and he was in a battle, and someone actually said to him that he thought a different approach was better. He asked, and Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam took on board that different approach. So I think that's one thing about being a leader is, and I think Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he showed that an example there in a time of battle, in a time of crisis, where he did take the opinion of someone that had a different idea and went ahead with it. Battle of Trench, thank you. Okay, pace setting. So you set the pace. That's very good for new staff, and it's quite demanding. And if people are motivated, it will work. But there is also the other aspect. It can demotivate people as they may feel left behind and not being able to keep up. In some cases, you might want that. And this is me being quite brutal there. In some places, they might not want people who can't keep up. They might want to push them out. But the other thing is, you've got to think about, if you've got too many people that can't keep up, what are the effects? Also, are you going to find someone that can keep up? So these are difficult decisions. This bit here, I think, is absolutely vital. And it reminds me of when I actually had a job interview, and I spoke with actually one of the speakers, Kareem, who's going to do one of the final sessions. So I actually phoned him up. He was an assistant head teacher at the time, and I was going for a head of department job. And I said to him, I don't have as much experience. I've only been teaching for 5 years. I'm going for head of department, and I've only had a very brief time as an assistant head of year for about 6 months. I might be going in an interview against someone with about 10 years experience. And he said, and his words stuck with me, and he goes to me, if you go into the interview and you show that you've got vision, that is far more important than someone with 10 or 15 years experience. Someone with years experience but without the vision, that's not someone that he would want in his school. So he said, you have to prove that you've got the vision. I think that's something that I think we need to think about. The vision. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? So I think that's something that I think we should always think about. Where is it we want to? Where's the journey that we're going to go towards? Coaching. That's also a type of leadership that we've got there. To allow people to figure out what solutions by asking them questions. What would you have done differently? So coaching is slightly different in some aspects than just sort of instructing. You are getting people to think. You are developing new leaders by carrying out coaching, and you're getting people to think quite a lot. And we can see some of the characteristics there. Okay, give empathy, not sympathy. Sympathy is feeling compassion, sorrow, or pity for hardships other than personal encounters, while empathy is putting yourself in the other person's shoes. So you're trying to get the best out of the person.
Yeah. And just to add to that, Marwan, just for everyone's benefit, we will be holding a session on coaching which is session number 5, which will be delivered by a gentleman called Muhammad Arshad from the Muslim Mastery Services. And many people confuse what mentoring and coaching are, in fact, the two different things as well. So we will be looking into that in more detail in
All right,
session 5.
Thank you very much, Brother Shoaib. Affiliative. So people come first, creating the emotional bonds, focuses on the person more than the job. Downside, the inability to effectively hold people to account, works really well with a high-performing team. People are self-motivated, usually experts. So that's something that is appropriate in some cases, but in not all cases it would work. Yes, the PowerPoint will be emailed, inshallah. So these are things that you as a leader, you need to think about with your team. Who needs the different aspects of leadership? I think the best leaders know how to deal with different people in different ways. I don't know if anyone heard the ice cream van just passed by my house.
I certainly heard it. I certainly heard it.
Okay. Unfortunately, I can't give ice creams to everybody. Maybe need a trust. If you organise a trip after COVID-19 where we're all in the one room, maybe we can do that.
Virtual ice cream.
Okay. All right. The 6 styles of leadership there. So we've got them there. And I think we should all sort of maybe take a minute to think, are we more of one than the other? Are we actually able to use the different ones in different situations? Because I think the most successful leaders know when to use the different styles and also know when to use it with different people. If anybody's got any comments or wants to expand on those 6 styles, I'm more than happy to have someone speak.
What is coming up from the chat, Marwan, is I can see a lot of people have commented significantly. So, Sister Zainab's mentioned that she enjoys or loves coaching. Helps to drive your team member to reach their craft. Very good. For visionary, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Wow, that's a very good point from Sister Hasina. You can continue to improve, but is it necessary to have a massive change of vision? Let's put that question to you, Marwan. Sister Hasina has asked, if it works, why change it? Why do I have to have a visionary approach?
My view would be the world is changing, the environment's changing, and that's why I would say you have to think about it. So that would be my opinion. The world does change; things don't stay the same.
Yep.
Yes, there is an argument to that. But I would think carefully about not wishing change. But yes, I agree. Massive change is not always needed.
Sure. So we've got a couple of more questions coming in quickly, Marwan. Sister Amal has asked, can you explain affiliative again? I'm going to pose a few more questions to you so you can do it quickly. Can you explain what affiliative is again?
Okay,
Sister Faiza has asked, is it possible for a leader to use all the styles in their leadership? And I'll come back to, I think I identify more with being affiliative. That's what Sister Tasnim has said. She can affiliate more with being affiliative.
So the affiliative is, so you're basically creating a bond. It's you as a team. You're thinking everybody's together. You care more about necessarily the welfare of your team than necessarily the job at hand. It's a really caring sort of environment, but the problem is, as we mentioned there's the inability to hold effectively people to account. So for example, someone's missed a deadline. Yeah, that's all right. Okay, what was your reason? Yeah, okay. So sometimes that is fine if you've got a high performing team. You trust everyone in your team to do what they need to do. But if you've got some members who are not on board, that could be extremely problematic. Brother Shoaib, would you like to add anything onto that?
Yeah, I think in our discussion about this before, Marwan, we spoke about how these are generally people who are, self-motivated. They are people who bring a lot of experience to the table, and sometimes they don't like to be asked as much about their doings, or what they've been engaged in, and many of the time they just get the job done eventually, but probably they just need that bit of encouragement. And those are your kind of people in a school setting who are your experienced pros,
Yeah.
where the sort of principal or head teacher would sort of go to and ask them to do a job, and give them they require less micromanaging.
Yeah, I think the comment about can you have all types of leadership, I would say yes, but I would also say you need to judge the situation. Also, you've also got to look at the priorities of certain things. Does something need to be done? If you've got something that might need to be done within a week, you might not have time to have a democratic process and get everybody's views on board. But when you're going through a consultation of something that might be happening to the school and is going to change the school for the future, you will need to get a lot of people on board. So I think I think that point about judgment, knowing when to use the different types of leadership, I think that's what I would say is key. But I would say definitely a really outstanding leader would use, I think, all those 6 styles, but at different points with different people.
Okay.
Yes, this one's an interesting one, the default one. And I'd quite like people to think about that. What's your default one? Because I know this isn't a school context, but it's those of you that know me, I'm a bit of a football obsessive, play 5-a-side football, and we had this guy that we play football with, and we called him Little Hitler. And the reason why was he was extremely tough with us. So for example, if we said on a Thursday night we were going to play, and then we didn't play on a Thursday night, he would give us he would be extremely annoyed with us unless we had like an extremely good reason to it. And then other people would think, what's wrong with him? As in, I had this thing, I had to go somewhere. But his viewpoint was, he was thinking of the bigger picture. He's thinking, people are giving up a Thursday night to come and play. They're leaving their families. They're doing this exercise. If one person pulls out, they've ruined the game for everybody else. So he didn't find it difficult to have difficult conversations with people over something that people might just say, it's just a game of football on a Thursday night. Why is he obsessed? But his view, and he had no problems being that commanding person. Other people might just say, that's a bit too much. I'm going to pull out of this. I'm not getting involved in this. But that's something that he didn't mind, and he had no problem with that. When you're in a school, there's other issues. You might have staff that you cannot deal with in such a way.
So we've got some very insightful comments here.
Yes.
So we've had Sister Thamina saying you will get different student cohorts with different needs, which require different leadership styles. Ehsan has said, I'm too affiliative in my approach and find it hard to hold people to account, which is good because that's one of the sessions that we're going to cover as well. Sister Nina says she's a coaching leader. Atif Jalil says plays football with a smiley face.
Yes, I know why he's written that.
By the way, Atif Jalil is delivering one of the sessions as well, so I think you can give him a bit of stick as well if you like. Tahira Khan has said democratic and commanding, 50-50 split. Interesting. Asha has said, I change my style depending on the situation. I'd like to know what would be the best approach. Interesting. I think you answered that in your answer. You answered that earlier on, Marwan, saying that each style needs to be dependent upon the situation. Dr. Mina has said, can you share a tool to find one's leadership style? Yes, indeed we can. Very good question there, Dr. Mina. There is a personality test online, which I will share in an email. I'll ask our administrator to share with everyone. And that basically looks at, your strengths as your personality and what areas you need to work on of your personality. And that would help you understand the kind of leadership style that you are more dominant in, which one you need to work on as well. Sixtamal said, I'm more coaching, but not sure if that's a good thing all the time. Okay, that's quite a bit of insight. So Marwan, should we proceed?
Yeah, and I think the important thing is, I think what's excellent here is people have actually looked at what their natural default leadership style is, which is fine. And then they have to think of, right, that's my natural default. That's the one that I'm most comfortable with. What can I do with the other aspects which I'm less comfortable with to be able to use them in the right place? So I think that's excellent that people have actually thought about what the style is. Okay. Right, here's one. I'd really like it if someone could take the mic and maybe share with the group a situation, positive or negative, where you could identify a leadership style that you used and the impact it had. So if you can just have a think, maybe I'll give you 30 seconds to think. If anyone wants to take the mic, that would be excellent.
Yeah, just type speak. Just type speak if you'd like to take the mic to answer this question. I'm just conscious of time as well, so we might run over slightly. Okay.
Mr. Mahmood, Shoaib, sorry, would you like to identify a situation where you had maybe a positive impact and using one particular type of leadership?
Yeah, you're putting me on the spot there, Marwan. But yeah, I'll quickly I'll answer. Well, we've got Brother Wazir who would like to speak, so I'm going to give preference to the audience member.
Thank you.
Brother Wazir, I have now unmuted you. You may speak. Oh, hang on. Okay, let's unmute you. I'm not sure why.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Brother Wazir.
Yeah. We had a flood in my country. I'm from South America, Guyana.
Welcome.
We're more than 50. Yeah, we're more than 50% of the people were affected by the flood.
Okay.
And so I was the head of my group at that time. So I had to use what you call autocratic style, because we were trying to assist people affected by the flood. And the reason why I have to use the autocratic style, which was difficult to have a meeting, there was no Zoom then. Most of my team was affected by the flood. So I take central command and organize team. But we're going to use the guerrilla style. We have different groups in different places. And I will visit each one of them during the flood.
Mhm.
And give them what kind of assistance, advice, and so they need, so they can assist the flooded areas. And we were able to provide, let's say, about 1,200 hot meals per day by different groups. Some groups will come on the weekends because they are far away from where the flooded area is, and they will do their stuff. Also, unilaterally, I made the decision by cooperating with others, form partnership with others, so we can have a wider expanse and more resources to assist the flooded areas. That's it.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So that's pretty much the commanding style, and you've taken up an interesting point there. So it was a crisis. You judged what resources you had, and you pretty much decided that there was only one option there. And thankfully you managed to deal with it in an extremely successful way. And thank you very much. It's nice to know that people from Guyana are tuning in. Okay. Right. And that's the vital point about keep learning. That's, I think, as a leader, if a leader stops learning, I think to a certain extent, they stop becoming a leader. And I think that's where I think many of them might fall. If you look at some people who might have been great leaders at the start, and then later on in years, it might not have been successful. That might be one thing where they sort of stopped. Okay. I think of you might have already heard of this before. Types of people: readers, thinkers, watchers, listeners, and doers. And a quote from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam: "Each of you is a shepherd, and each is responsible."
So just to talk about this slide briefly, Marwan.
Yeah.
So we types of people is pretty much quite evident. You get everyone sort of doing a lot of this kind of stuff. A lot of people like to give their 2 pence in terms of their advice. However, only 10% of people, generally speaking, are doers, which means that a lot of people will have their say, comment, etc. But leaders are essentially those people who go out and get things done, who get the ball in motion and get things moving along. And that's whereby, it's important to understand where once you're a leader, you not only are you operational, but you're also strategic. So the difference between the two is operational, meaning you're quite hands-on, you're getting things done, you're moving things around, you're managing people, where strategic is you're putting things into place that allows people up the second tier of the hierarchy to come in and do that job effectively, and you're sort of overseeing all of that. And that's where the quote of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes in, that each of you is a shepherd and you are responsible for that area. And that if we sort of link that to a strategic method, it's essentially you empowering someone to do those things which they can to make benefit, to provide benefit for essentially the students who we all work for in a school setting.
So each of you is a shepherd and each is responsible for those under his care. So that's Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you as a leader, as the head teacher, if you're the head teacher, then you've got obviously all your staff and the students. If you're a head of department, you've got your department and the students. And I think no matter where you are in the school, it's always someone and the students. And I think that's an important part that we need to think about. And even if you are a teacher, classroom assistant, any role within the school, you are still a leader of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Here's some advice that I think goes for all of us. Podcasts specific to your subject, leadership, books around the subject. And one of the things that I often think about when I look at some of the leaders that I've worked under. So there was one person, he's now actually a head teacher, and he was my line manager before he was head teacher. And he did read a lot of books regarding leadership, regarding psychology, regarding how to get the best out of people. And when I used to work for him, it wasn't like when he gave me a task or something and say I hadn't done it to the best that I could do, I would feel upset, not because he's going to shout at me, he's going to be upset at me. I would have sort of felt, oh, I've let him down. And I found myself working with him, putting in a little bit more effort than I might have with certain other leaders. So that's something he was able to sort of work out how to get the best out of me. And I'm pretty sure he's been able to do that with others. And one of the things that he's always talked about is the books he's read regarding psychology and how to deal with people. Observe both the good and the bad. YouTube, there's a lot out there. Make sure you get the best that's out there. Online courses. Do it, reflect, evaluate.
So, Marwan, if you could go back 1 second, why is it important to observe leaders who are both good and bad? Why is it essential for us as people who want to step into positions of leadership? Why is it good for us to do that?
I think with regards, I think we've got to be careful when we say bad there, because some leaders might have aspects that are good and aspects that are bad. But if you've got someone who's failed miserably in a particular project, or they've tried to get something off the ground, I think you need to think, why did that not work for that particular person? What made them not be able to buy in the team, or what made it fail? Why are so many people leaving? Why are so many people going off sick? And I think it's important that we sort of look so that we can improve ourselves and we don't make the same mistakes. And also, when it comes to the good, also that we then are able to implement it. I think Are we still okay for time? We've just gone over, haven't we, Mr.?
We've gone over 4 minutes, but it's fine. Let's just. I think this is our last
Okay.
slide now.
So apologies, everyone, that we've just gone over. This is our last slide. I think this respect, with respect, you can go far. You can carry out your vision. So if we look at authentic versus traditional, so if we just have a look through that. And when I look at the traditional, I think that's someone wanting to become a leader for the sake of becoming a leader. And to me, that's not why someone should want to become a leader. So if it's like, oh, I want to become head teacher, the question is, why do you want to become head teacher? Is it because you like the title, or is it because you want to have a profound impact on the students' lives? And I think that's something that we need to think about when we're defining authentic leadership. Okay. All right. I'd just like to thank everybody for the engagement. We got quite a lot of comments in there in the chat, which was nice to see. Also, everybody managed to stay till the end, which is, even though we overran by a few minutes. I'd just like to thank everybody for that. And also thank you, Shoaib, for letting me take this opportunity to speak with everybody, and thank Nida Trust.
Thank you very much for that, Marwan. Jazakallah khair. Yeah, we've got some, I think this is one of the webinars that I've hosted, which has given me a lot of insight into the comments and stuff like that. So that's good to hear. Some people have asked about books. They've messaged me privately. And, you know, personally, the books that I would recommend any leader to sort of engage with at the moment is some stuff written by Richard Templar. The book is very easy to read. The book is titled The Rules of Work and the Rules of Management. And we've also got some insight from Sister Zainab, who's told us that she's a long life learner and she's reading The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People as well. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff out there that you can sort of engage with in terms of podcasts and YouTube videos. It's just a matter of finding what suits you and what you kind of person you like listening to. So if there are any questions anyone would like to ask, I'm sure Marwan will be happy to stick around for a few more minutes. But that brings our official session to a close. We'll stick around for a few moments to take in any questions. And I know one of the sisters wanted some insight into her leading the school. And I asked you to sort of stay behind. We can tune in with that as well in a moment. I think that was Sister Nina. Okay, so mashallah.
The book titles again, Shoaib, can you actually put them down? The video, we will be sharing this PowerPoint, Shoaib, with the members, won't we?
Yeah, we'll be sending the video, YouTube video of this session. Okay. The rules of work, rules of management. Can the Yasir Qadhi video be sent? Yep. When you look at the, let me see if I've got it now. I can quickly post it if it's available for me. No, it's not. Okay. I will send it in the email that goes. I'll ask our administrator to send the Yasir Qadhi link. That was a pretty good video. So yeah, okay. Doesn't seem that we're getting any more questions. Cheryl, thank you very much for your nice presentation. Thank you for that, Mr. Elfallah. Just a reminder that you'll be given a link with a form just to give us a bit of a insight into how the session went. So Sister Amala said, I did not receive Monday's PowerPoint. Okay, interesting. I believe you get the video, right? I'm not sure why you didn't get the PowerPoint. I'll look into that. We've got a question
about how to learn to become self-reflective.
Yep.
There are ways. There's things like called diagnostics that certain people do, and there's certain things that you can look at, 365 diagnostics, where you get other people to actually look at what you've done and actually speak about your qualities. Also, as yourself, I think it's something where you analyze situations and you look and you think, right, I wanted this to happen, but what did happen? So I think it's something unfortunately I can't answer straight away. And Shoaib, I don't know if you've got any more insights into that, becoming self-reflective, because it's not something that you can just do like at a click of the fingers.
Yeah, I mean, self-reflection, it's like, what I found is when you ask someone to be self-reflective, essentially you're asking them to ask the questions that you would ask of somebody else. So for example, if you're a teacher, you would ask a child, how do you think this piece of work went? And they will tell you it went good. You would ask them, why did it go good? And they will give you those reasons. And those are the same things you would ask yourself those questions. What did I do well? And what did I not do so well in? And then you can give yourself those honest questions. Some people like to record them by writing them down. Some people like to have those conversations with themselves by looking in the mirror. Some people like to record them, or sometimes some people like to have that conversation with someone else. And what you do find is when you are reflective if you are reflective upon your practice, you sometimes can be much more harsh in criticism or critical towards yourself, which isn't a bad thing because it helps you to improve even more so. But self-reflection is just literally asking those questions of yourself and seeing how you can improve.
I think, and you made an interesting point there about people being extremely tough on themselves. One of the things that I do in my job is I watch teachers teach lessons, and then I ask them a number of these questions, and it is interesting to see how tough they are on themselves. And sometimes they focus on certain points, but they forget all the other good points that they've carried out during the lesson.
Yep. Okay, so PowerPoints, yeah, a lot of the people are liking the PowerPoints. Okay. Right, so I think we are pretty much done with the session. So I'm now going to ask everyone to leave the meeting. Marwan, do you have a few moments to speak to Sister Nina?
Yeah. I don't know if she's still here. Oh, yes, she is.
Okay. So Sister Nina, I'm going to unmute you. Are you okay with people listening in onto the call? I'm going to stop recording this now so that we can discuss the situation at hand. So can you speak now, Sister Nina?
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. I'm going to stop recording